Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the Valentine's Day Book Tag because it is February and 'tis the season. But before we go ahead and get on into the tag, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, then hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box below for links to all of my social medias, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways. So I wasn't tagged specifically by anybody to do this tag, so I'll go ahead and put the prompts as well as the website where I got this tag down in the description box if you're interested in doing it for yourself. Question number 1 is a standalone book that you love, and I'm going to go with The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This was actually the first adult thriller that I have ever read and the first Ruth Ware book I've ever read, but I've since read some of her other stuff and I've read some other thrillers, and this is definitely still my favorite one. But in this book, we follow a woman that takes a job as a nanny, and the house where she takes the job is kind of like a smart home. And a lot of the stuff is like automatic, and she ends up being left alone with the children while the parents go off very soon after she was hired. And the children are definitely like a little bit manipulative, and there is one that is definitely sadistic. And not only that, but some things start going on in the house and you don't know if it's the system malfunctioning or if it's something paranormal. And I just love how Ruth Ware created that atmosphere and made me question, like, okay, is it a ghost or is it someone messing with our character? Is our character just insane? So there's a lot of like twists to this book that really kept me on my toes, and I definitely recommend it if you like thrillers. Prompt 2 is a favorite dystopian book that you love, and I'm going to go with 1984 by George Orwell. This is a book that I read several years ago, and I have been itching to kind of reread it because I remember really liking it and it making an impression on me, but I feel like now that I'm a little bit older, I might be able to see some things upon the reread that I might have not have seen my first go around. But this book follows a world that exists underneath a totalitarian government that monitors everything that the people do and controls everything that the people do, and even like thinking bad about the government is against the law. And we follow a main character that starts to realize the wrongness of this and rebel, and kind of his journey. And it just raises a lot of questions and allows me, the reader, to kind of analyze similarities maybe between things that are going on in our current society, our current world, our current government. So this is a book that I definitely do want to revisit sometime in the near future. Prompt 3 is a book you love that no one talks about, and I'm going to have to go with The Diabolic by S.J. Kincaid. This whole series, even though I haven't read the third book, but this is a YA sci-fi series, and I know that YA sci-fi isn't like the most popular genre, but this series is so good. It took me by surprise. It follows a girl who's a diabolic, who's kind of like this genetically engineered servant, and she ends up having to take the place of this politician's daughter to keep her safe, and she goes to kind of like this large spaceship of the emperor of this galactic empire and passes for this political person's daughter, and she ends up finding out that there's a lot going on within the politics of this world. And the thing I like the most about this book is that you never know who you can trust, because the author will like establish these characters and have them have these interactions with one another, but then they'll betray one another, and then you just don't know who is genuine and who's telling the truth and who you can actually trust, especially one of the main protagonists, which at this point in the series, I still don't know if I can trust that character. So it's just an interesting world, an interesting take on sci-fi that isn't too complicated, isn't too overloaded with like sci-fi jargon. The world is really rich and interesting. The politics are, and the characters are, especially our main character, who like is having to pass as a human and isn't really necessarily considered human. So if you like YA sci-fi, or even if you like sci-fi in general, but don't normally read YA, I would still give The Diabolic a go. Prompt 5 is your favorite book couple, and I'm going to go with Jean-Claude and Isabelle from the Risen Kingdoms trilogy, but this is a little unconventional because they're not a romantic couple. They're actually like a father-daughter relationship, and it's just one of the sweetest relationships that I've ever seen. So Jean-Claude basically saves Isabelle when she was a child. Her mother did not want to keep her. Her father and mother didn't want to keep her because she was born with a deformed hand, but he basically like took her and forced them to keep her and helped raise her, and he's just loves her so much. He's a mentor to her, and there are just so many scenes in this series where they have to protect one another, and it's so just warms my heart because Isabelle was basically scorned by her parents and hated by her parents, and Jean-Claude was really the only one to show her love and compassion and kind of nurture her. So I just love their dynamic and interactions. Prompt 5 is a book that other people seem to love that you haven't read yet, and I'm going to go with The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is an adult Asian-inspired fantasy, and I've just heard so many people rave about this book, this series. I honestly don't know too much about this series. I know that the author did draw inspiration from actual events that happened in Chinese and Japanese history. That's really all I know, and it follows a girl, a peasant girl, that is taken from her village to go to this like military school and kind of rises in the ranks in this military school. But I've heard that this book has a lot of like YA attributes. Where we're following a young character that kind of like grows into adulthood, but at the same time, like it's extremely brutal and gory and graphic and in your face. So I'm really not sure how to go into this book and what expectations to have, but it is one I'd like to get to, hopefully in 2022. Prompts 6 and 7 were very similar. So prompt 6 is to show a book with red covers and prompt 7 is to show a book with pink covers, but I just found that a little bit boring. So I'm just going to show you guys some books that have like Valentine's-y type covers or titles. Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welch. Of Curses and Kisses by Sandhya Menon. Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. The Beast's Heart by Leif Shallcross. And Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Prompt 8 is you were given a box of chocolates, and what fictional boyfriend or girlfriend would you give this box of chocolates to? And I'm actually going to choose a character from the book I'm currently reading, which is The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, and I'm going to give it to the Glame. So the Glame is a character that I feel so bad for in this book. So in this book, this is a creature that can control the winds, and they are like, they have bird-like attributes, but you know, they are erect like a human, and they are very much feared, and each single ship has a Glame to help them control the winds and to sail better. And the Glame on this ship, the Tide Child, is extremely powerful. But then we learn that like the Glame are actually, despite how powerful they are, treated almost like slaves, like they're forced into this servitude on these ships. And everyone's scared of it, so it doesn't have any friends. No one talks to it. No one cares about it. Like, it's in this room all by itself until its services are required to help change the winds. And I'm like, I feel so bad for it. And then we learn, like in this book, as our main character kind of like befriends the Glame, the Glames get really lonely, and all it wants is a friend and someone to talk to, and like it wants things like possessions of its own. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I would give my chocolates to the Glame because it doesn't have any friends, and I feel really bad for it. Prompt number 9 is you are single on Valentine's Day. What book would you read? What movie would you watch? And what TV show would you watch? This is hard for me to answer. I haven't been single in like 17 years. But I would probably be reading the book that I'm currently reading, whatever that is. My favorite TV show, I would probably binge The Big Bang Theory just because it makes me laugh. And as for movies, I would probably binge watch the whole Lord of the Rings series, including The Hobbit. Like, I would just spend all of Valentine's Day just watching Lord of the Rings and being in Middle-earth with Frodo and Sam and Bilbo. And prompt 10 is I am in the bookstore and I'm shot by Cupid's arrow. What new release am I going to fall in love with next? And I have 2 new releases that I am looking very much forward to in 2022. And the first one is The Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I just found out recently that this book is going to be published, and I'm probably going to pre-order it, but it is a standalone. I don't know if it's standalone, but it has to do with like shadows and a shadow world, and just sounds so good. And then also The Martyr by Anthony Ryan, which is book 2 in the Covenant of Steel series, which I just read the Pariah like 2 weeks ago and fell in love with it, gave it 5 stars. Definitely a series that I am very excited to continue. Alright, you guys, that is it for the Valentine's Day book tag. Let me know some of your answers to these prompts, and I will see y'all in another video soon. Goodbye!